Joining me now is retired Rear Admiral John Kirby, as is CNN's Barbara Starr at the Pentagon. Admiral Kirby, if I could begin with you. Tillerson, in that press conference there, called these moves, in his words, very symbolic. He says they will have limited practical effects. You spent a lot of time in the State Department. Tell me what those effects are. Well, the limited practical effects he's talking about, or at least what I think they hope it will have, is an effort to encourage and maybe induce other nations, our allies, partners, and other nations in the region to increase their level of pressure on North Korea, particularly the Chinese. Financial pressure, because, of course, China has actual trade with a significant trade, and this is a way to squeeze them further to stop that trade. I think that's what they're really trying to go for. Now, look, I mean, the sanctions on North Korea are already so severe that any sanctions that would come on top of this by labeling them as a state sponsor are likely to be minimal at best. So you're not going to feel a practical effect Yang on this, but it will have potentially a chance to help galvanize and sort of continue this momentum of international pressure. Okay. Barbara, Secretary of State Tillerson, he said that the U.S. is not running out of diplomatic options, and this is a message we've heard from him consistently, even when the U.S. has taken various military moves to kind of assure the world that diplomacy is still on track here. But what are actually the additional options in the diplomatic space that there still are for the president?
Well, let me underscore what John Kirby is saying. What you're looking at, whether you call them economic or diplomatic, essentially the non-combat options. And what experts will tell you is one of the things they're watching so closely right now that the U.S. intelligence community is watching, believe it or not, is North Korean fuel supplies. Winter is coming. They are beginning to see, we are told, shortages of fuel, shortages of gasoline, some petrol stations that should be open, closed. And this can be the kind of diplomatic pressure, economic pressure that can be applied against North Korea. They've got to harvest their winter crops at some point. They need fuel. They need trucks to move all of that around to feed their people. So Kim may be feeling that kind of pressure. And it's coming to a large extent through China. So, again, the diplomatic pressure that the White House hopes will work is to pressure China, and winter fuel may be the lever to try and accomplish that. And we heard Secretary Tillerson list some other countries that are no longer trading with North Korea. He said Malaysia, Singapore, Sudan, Philippines. So they're feeling that pressure. Here's how he described how it's working.
I think it is having an effect. Is this the reason we haven't had a provocative act in 60 days? I don't want to suggest to you that I could say, but we're hopeful this period will continue.
Admiral, you look at that. Should the U.S. read any, I don't know if hope is the right word, but confidence? If you've had a couple of months here without a provocative missile launch, for instance, over Japan, I mean, you had quite a hot period there for a few weeks. Do you see anything positive in North Korea's behavior? I do. I think you got to be careful reading too much into it. You know, Kim Jong-un can be rather unpredictable, so let's not, get too optimistic or Pollyannish here. But it is notable that there hasn't been much in terms of provocative behavior in the last couple of months. It's notable that the senior envoy from the party went to Pyongyang, and they advertised it, and that is a big deal. So we don't know what was discussed, but the fact that he was able to go and have those meetings also significant. And look, if you had told me a year ago, Jim, that China would cut off natural gas to the north, and that would reduce by a couple of billion barrels their oil exports, and that they would stop importing seafood from Pyongyang, I'd have laughed at you. So I think the administration does deserve some credit for the ability to move China in the right direction. But again, North Korea, you know as well as I do, that is very unpredictable where this is going to go. So I think we need to be careful here. Credit where credit is due. As you said, China has been squeezing in the last few months North Korea in economic ways it had not done in the past, and that's important to note. Barbara,